Welcome to Kraftwerke, and apologizing for playing the clickbait game. But actually, for me personally, this is not a clickbaity video. To me, this is a fairly important subject. I was watching the video that Rick Beato made, comparing Billie Eilish to Kurt Cobain, essentially. And at first, my first reaction, like I think a lot of them were, the reason why it's such perfect clickbait is that it's like, what the fuck? Seriously? No. Especially somebody who's really a Nirvana fan and doesn't like pop music. There's this obvious kind of like riff, and your initial thought is to go, no, I don't think so. And I was watching the whole video, and I immediately had some thoughts, but I spent the night toiling it over. I know it sounds silly, right? But it is actually, personally, for me personally, as a fairly important band in my musical history. In general, my history is Nirvana. So I thought, instead of having some preconceived bias and just knee-jerking about this, I'll actually really think through what Rick said, because I've got a lot of respect for Rick Beato. I love his videos. This is absolutely not a critique video at all. The reason I did end up making this video, though, is because I think that there are a lot of things which Rick didn't really think about. The comparison is extremely superficial, and on the base of it, if you just listen to it, it like makes perfect sense. The problem is when you're somebody like me, and somebody who really connected to Nirvana and metal and rock music and that whole genre, especially being in the prime in the 90s, there are a few aspects to that whole scene that I think people don't really connect with in the same way than others, right? Some people just love Kurt Cobain's music, or grunge, or Soundgarden, or whatever, and some people are attached to it more on an emotional level. So what I'm thinking of doing, like I said, I try to really think this through, is go for some of the points that Rick makes and kind of give a little bit more detail around it. So to be absolutely clear, this is not a critique video. This is not even to Billie Eilish. I don't listen to Billie Eilish. I've heard her songs. When Rick goes into the song structures and how they're made and all that, completely agree. The stuff is great musicianship. It's really good writing. So this has got nothing to do with writing skill, musician skill, creativity skill, any of that. It has to do with, there is a massive emotion that is attached to certain bands, to certain people, and certain groups. And drawing these comparisons on a superficial level, I don't want to say it's offensive, but it kind of goes, no, it isn't. And I'll try and explain something. So first off, Rick says Dave Grohl is the person who kind of made that comment about Billie Eilish being the kind of modern day Kurt Cobain. Firstly, as much as I love Dave Grohl and would actually love to hang out with him and record in his studio on his Neve desk and hear him talk, he's such a absolutely gem of a person. He's now just a dad rocker. Now, obviously, he has the past of Nirvana, and he lived through the same things that I'm going to be talking about. He was an open, happy person, somebody who looks at the world and does whatever he wants to do. he probably didn't have any emotional issues, really, at least by the looks of it. And so for him to make this comment feels a little bit odd, because, I mean, here's a guy who gets kids to come up on stage with him. I mean, this is fucking rock. This is not, you know, a kid's playground or a kid's party. It's like, rock has been watered down to be this all-inclusive, pretty thing. And that is actually part of the problem here. The rebellion is gone. The attitude is gone. The cocaine and horrors is gone. I mean, where is it? It's like some people said, it's now with the rappers. And that's why they actually have more followers than rock. That's why they are more popular. The whole kind of real rebellion is gone, right? Circle of Tone talks about it all the time, and there's so much truth in that. In my opinion, the new grunge, that new movement, that new kind of new thing is actually in doom and stoner, you know, and in some of the metal genres, which none of them will ever be famous. They will be on YouTube videos here and there, and that's probably it. And if you're lucky, some of them will put their stuff on Spotify so you can listen to it. That's where I find my music now, in that whole community. I love the sound, I love the home production, I love the homemade stuff, I like the self-writing of that sort of thing. Anyway, Dave Grohl is obviously knows Kurt Cobain probably better than pretty much anyone, and it feels weird for him to say it, because obviously you go, well, I don't know Kurt Cobain, but he does, so if he said it, well, maybe he's better placed to do that. But I think, again, it's not about Kurt Cobain. This is actually a video about Billie Eilish, because I think we misunderstand Billie Eilish more than we not understand Kurt Cobain. Billie Eilish and Kurt Cobain's paths are fucking massively different. Their whole background is different. And therefore their whole mental state is different. Their whole the world that they live in is completely different. Their upbringing, their household, everything is fucking different. That comment is true, but only to such a very superficial level, which is, yeah, she writes her own music, she's extremely popular, and, you know, the kids like her. That's it. That's fucking it. And that's not enough to draw such a big comparison. So I'll give an example. So Rick also talks about the rebellion, that they're rebellious. There was never a feeling that Nirvana or Kurt Cobain rebellion against society, politics, all these things, his rebellion to the status quo was ever fake. It never felt like that. When you look at Billie Eilish and everything that's happened, you don't have that same feeling. Yeah, she talks about all these things and she seems all rebellious. To be honest, Stevie T started right. It's like the creepy, right? It just feels like he's just a depressed, flippant teenager, end of story, which gazillion people are. And so it's easy to talk to that kind of person, right? Billie Eilish wears... Billie Eilish's fashion is wearing baggy clothes. Guaranteed, the difference in thought pattern in the morning when you get dressed and you're Billie Eilish and Kurt Cobain were two entirely different things, right? The one gets up and has a closet full of fucking shit because I've got nice wealthy parents and I'm homeschooled and all that shit. And the other one has got what he's got and he puts the shit on and he fucking walks out the door. So the style is like an irrelevant comment. You can't compare the two. Image changes. I think these are important points. Like, image changes are typical for people in the limelight, actors, pop stars, rock stars, you name it. It's kind of expected and most likely also driven a little bit by management and all that kind of stuff. Kurt Cobain also made some, but I think the difference is one of the things that I think, well, at least is been said to have eventually killed him, is that he did a lot of things that he regretted. He had massive integrity and he was very hypocritical sometimes. And that ate at him. When he acted like he was expected to act, those were the moments that he felt really shit, because he went like, I'm a sellout. These personality traits are so vastly different. Why certain people wear certain things, they can't be compared. It's because one person wears baggy clothes and the other one wears baggy clothes. Also, he never really wore baggy clothes, he just wore big flannel shirts, really. And then he had some other weirdish styles, but it wasn't this massive full-on change from hair colors and all sorts of stuff. It was kind of ad hoc stuff here and there. The other one is quite important, and I think somebody put that in the comments. Billie Eilish is super popular now, and Kurt Cobain was super popular. But I don't believe for a second that she will stand the test of time 20 years down the road. She'll probably have a long career, but will she have that cult and culture that surrounds her going forward for years and years to come? Will she change music like Kurt Cobain? Will she inspire fucking thousands of people to pick up a guitar? I don't think so, and I think that's a massive difference. There was also a comparison between the singers, that they're both great singers. I don't believe for a second that Kurt Cobain was a great singer. His delivery was immaculate and amazing, and it came from a place of passion and anger. But classically good singer, not even close. I mean, even some of the live stuff, you can hear him. He's all over the show, right? He isn't this perfectionist kind of guy. He splurted it out at full volume, and he just went for it. And that delivery is what made his singing great. And yeah, he could hold a tune, absolutely. I remember that I never sang in my band, and then I was kind of forced to, and I was so anxious and scared and shy about it. And then when I just went for it, it just worked. If I really belt it out, I can do it. If I don't, I flutter. I feel the same happened to him. I'm not saying he could sing, make no mistake, but there's, from a technical singing point of view, I don't think there's really a comparison. I doubt a lot of people nowadays would be able to make it that big who sing as well as Kurt Cobain. What I mean by that is that level of singing. I think to be popular, you now need a much higher level of technical singing skills. The other comment, where I'm not so sure of myself. So it says that Billie Eilish is the voice of her generation. And I think this is, personally, I feel it's very anecdotal. I don't think you can really be the voice of a generation, of this current generation. I think they're terribly fragmented. They have got so many options in the world, from what to wear, what to watch, which social media platform that they prefer, which music to listen to, the availability of the music, the choice in music, games, movies, shows, you name it. There's nothing that binds them. There are things that bind certain people, but overall, and there's a lot of crossover, but there's not the same structure in the media and the available media that we had in the 90s, which was MTV and maybe a couple of cable channels and maybe a couple of radio places and music stores, where a certain type of person, or if you had a certain kind of interest, congregated. You couldn't sit down behind your computer and open Spotify and just have this fucking library of shit at your fingertips and just click and listen, click and listen. So a lot of the ways that people became famous were through somebody signing them, and Nirvana was already famous and had like a following from what they did, shows and stuff like that. There was already a lot of word of mouth, underground stuff happening. That doesn't happen now. She did something interesting on SoundCloud or something like that, or YouTube, and somebody picks it up and fucking promotes it. And then once that's happened, it's just throwing millions behind advertising. You know, I really believe that if I had that any half decent band can become a household name nowadays, and not a household name, but famous, if they have the same kind of advertising behind them and slick productions and posters and Facebook ads and Spotify ads and Instagram ads and Twitter ads and so on, because that's how people react. That's why politicians get voted in. It's just shout somebody long enough and people just go, oh, that must be the new good thing, so I'll listen to that. So I think that there's such a difference in the way that these two bands and these two people became famous that the comparison is a little bit tricky. The comment that they both write their own music. There's a fucking gazillion people writing their own music, writing their own lyrics, and they just don't have the advertising campaigns behind them. In my opinion, it's as simple as that. Considering how overproduced her music is and how well it's produced, I am 100% sure that there's auto-tune involved in bits and bobs here and there, even if it's for artistic purposes and not to necessarily correct pitch of the singer. So the songwriting was another one. The songwriting, I don't know what Billie Eilish, why she writes what she does. It seems very much like a crafted, for a specific purpose, speaking to her generation kind of lyrics. Kurt Cobain himself said that lyrics come second. You can see the interview online. He doesn't give a shit about the lyrics, really. He's got some kind of stuff to say and he kind of wants to talk about a specific topic. But the lyrics were secondary to the performance, to the loudness, to the music, to the attitude, and all of that. Right? So even from a songwriting point of view, their music or their lyrics or their topics might speak to a certain group, but actually overall it was the attitude of Kurt Cobain that portrayed the I'm the same as you guys, not the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are like all over the show. So I want to talk a little bit about the background. How can you compare two people? The one person came from a broken home, industrial, small town, full of bullshit, having to beg, borrow and steal to make music, having shit guitars, shit amps, record demos on those little mono tapes if they have to, literally have to hit the road, hit the clubs and the pubs, play their music in a place which doesn't really accept that kind of music, a completely new kind of style, a massively different background of the inherent person and the band itself to somebody who, and I'll read you, this is from Wikipedia. She was born in Los Angeles. She's the daughter of actress and theatre troupe manager and an actor, both who are also musicians. So there's one big difference. She already has that support from a knowledge and an interest point of view. Kurt didn't. O'Connell and Phillips were homeschooled, which is another big thing. I mean, who the fuck homeschools their kids? How are you going to teach your kids anything about society if you stick them at home and protect them? Because every single person that I know, and this is anecdotal maybe, but every single person I know that homeschools their kids do so for exactly the wrong reasons. They're either hyper scared of the outside world and their influences, or they don't like the school and they think, oh, they're going to have all these drug and satanic influences in their public schools, or they're like hyper Christians and they're like, oh, we're going to school you in the ways of the Lord. you can't homeschool somebody and expect this person to have this connection with real teens and young people. You can't. That means that the lyrics have to come from a place of observation, not from a place of self-involvement. Like, I connected with Kurt Cobain for many reasons, because I grew up in South Africa and we were in a Christian school and it was over-disciplined, and it did half the things that people around us did we felt was unnecessary and just out of control or for control, like the over-discipline in the school, the way that you had to wear your uniforms, the way your hair had to be cut, your nails had to be short. And if you stepped out of any boundary, any social norm there, you were kind of seen as the weirdo, the outcast, the this, the that, the that. That's the kind of world that Kurt Cobain also lived in. Looking at authority and going, I don't have a problem with authority, I have a problem with what authority is doing, kind of thing. I mean, you can't be homeschooled and be world wise, because all the information you get is from the internet and from books. You don't have that daily connection with a bunch of weirdos in the same school as you. Her mother taught her and Phineas the basics of songwriting. Who the fuck taught Kurt about songwriting? Connell said her brother and her mother inspired her to get into music. The parents encouraged their siblings to express themselves and explore whatever they wanted, including art, dancing and acting. This is these hairy-fairy, over-loving parents, which is great. I'm not fucking criticizing that. But you cannot compare the two. There cannot be a comparison between the two personalities of somebody like that and Kurt Cobain and his domestic and teen experiences. Inside their heads there can be zero comparisons. Anyway, so it's a very strange thing. I know I care maybe a bit too deeply about this, but and again, I can only stress that this is absolutely not a criticism on either three of these, Rick, Kurt, or Billie Eilish. I just think that there is absolutely no comparison, except for this absolutely superficial, just looking at the charts and the top of the music and not actually looking any further. What sculpted the two people, why they're doing what they're doing, what is their possibilities. I mean, just imagine you are somebody who's never been taught, who's been going from home to home. I think he lived with his grandparents or something. He was broke half the time. He had drug issues. He had to fight like everybody in those days to get heard, to somebody who sits with all the support and money and modern technology to enable writing instead of just a shitty amp and a shitty pedal and a broken guitar to try and make it. There's fucking no comparison between where they came from. The other thing is I lost my train of thought here. Oh, that was a really important point I wanted to make as the end. Kurt Cobain committed suicide. He expressed often how the most of his demons were inner demons. That these were demons of self-hate, wanting to be a rock star and hating the fact that he became one. Not regretting it, but wanting to be this real, authentic person, and then making it, and then kind of at times acting like a rock star and being exactly the kind of person, or at least acting now and then like the kind of person that he didn't want to be. And so he was, from what I could gather from interviews and people that have spoken about it, he was in this constant doldrum of I want to be famous. I want to do it my way and want to do it the right way. I'm famous now. Now I've got to play the game. I don't want to play the game. Now I'm playing the game. Now I feel guilty for playing the game. This constant emotional turmoil that he went through. These are real issues that somebody like that has. Those issues, I can only assume, are not really the same issues from what drives you from inside to write the things that you write. To me, Billie Eilish is a super creative creator, and she can put herself most likely into those scenarios in her head and write really good songs, and therefore she can bring that out and speak, as you say, to the people. Somebody like Kurt and a lot of people who were in those situations, it came from within. It came naturally. It was who they are. I'm making a lot of assumptions here. I'm making my assumptions. I've got the book with all his scribbles. I've got the whole DVD pack with all the random stuff on it. I'm making my assumptions from that. So I wouldn't draw that comparison. And if I did, I would kind of put like a little dot on it and say this is massively superficial comparison between the two. So anyway, thanks for watching. Apologies for the afterthought here, but I think it actually really is important to this video. And what I want to include is to point you to a video made by Mixbus TV about a year ago, roughly, a bit more, year and a half-ish ago. And it talks about how Billie Eilish actually got famous and the kind of support structure that she had behind her and how she got into certain things. And again, it only illustrates the massive difference between the two artists and how and where they come from, how they made it famous, their possibilities, their support structures, all of that. It does not take away from Billie Eilish's creativity or skill. It doesn't. It's not supposed to do that. It just draws some attention to certain things. And although this video that I'm pointing to here has got the outset is from a different angle and for a different reason, but I think it really does. It is really important to this video that I made to kind of illustrate why I'm saying that the comparison is too superficial to be remotely true. So please have a look at the video. I've got the link down below. It's by Mixbus TV, and it's the title is The Truth About Billie Eilish Success, Not From Bedroom to Stardom. Thank you. Oh, by the way, please like, please subscribe, please share, please buy me a coffee, please buy my IRs, do all those things to help this channel. Cheers.